I never expected to lose my husband and my best friend on the same day. It was the kind of thing that happened in trashy soap operas, not in my life. But there I was, standing in my own kitchen, staring at them as they huddled together, whispering urgently like two conspirators caught in the act. They didn't see me at first. I was too stunned to say anything, too numb to react. Then they noticed me, and the silence that followed was suffocating. "Claire," my husband, Daniel, stammered. His face flushed red with guilt, his blue eyes wide with fear. "Claire, please, let me explain," Emily added, her voice trembling. She stepped forward, her hands raised as if to calm me. Emily, my best friend since college, the person who knew every detail of my life, my closest confidant, stood there, betraying me with the man I had vowed to love forever. There was a part of me that wanted to scream, to rage, to throw them both out of my house and never look back. But instead, I just stood there, frozen. My mind couldn't comprehend the betrayal, the deceit. How long had this been going on? How many times had they lied to me, smiling in my face while sharing secrets behind my back? I finally found my voice. "How long?" Neither of them answered. Daniel looked away, guilt etched into every line of his face. Emily lowered her head, unable to meet my gaze. "How long?" I repeated, my voice sharper now. 6 months, Daniel whispered. I felt the world tilt beneath me. 6 months. Half a year. They had been sneaking around, lying to me, living this double life for half a year. It was like a knife to the gut, twisting deeper with each second that passed. Emily stepped closer, her voice soft and pleading. "Claire, it wasn't supposed to happen this way. We didn't mean to hurt you." I backed away from her, shaking my head. "Don't you dare. Don't you dare say you didn't mean to hurt me. You knew exactly what you were doing. Both of you." The tears I had been holding back finally spilled over, blurring my vision. I wiped them away angrily, refusing to let them see me cry. I turned and walked out the door, leaving them both standing there in stunned silence. I needed air, space, anything to escape the suffocating betrayal. I didn't stop walking until I reached the park down the street. I collapsed onto a bench, my heart racing, my mind spinning with a million thoughts. How could this happen? How could they do this to me? I had no answers, only pain and a deep, consuming anger. As I sat there, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, half expecting another apology from Daniel or Emily. But it wasn't them. It was a number I didn't recognize. "Hello?" I answered, my voice shaky. "Mrs. Bennett?" A smooth, professional voice asked. "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Mr. Colton. I'm a lawyer representing your husband. We need to discuss some legal matters concerning your marriage." I froze. A lawyer? My heart pounded in my chest. What was Daniel planning now? "Meet me at my office tomorrow morning at 9. "It's important," the lawyer said, and before I could ask any questions, the line went dead. I sat there, staring at the phone in disbelief. What could be so urgent that Daniel's lawyer needed to see me? What more could Daniel possibly do to me after tearing my life apart? I had no idea that the lawyer's revelations would turn my world upside down once again, but this time, the twist would be in my favor. The next morning, I arrived at Mr. Colton's office, my nerves on edge. The sleek, modern building loomed above me, all glass and steel. It was the kind of place where big decisions were made, where lives were changed with the stroke of a pen. I took a deep breath and walked inside, determined to face whatever was coming. The receptionist led me to a conference room, where Mr. Colton sat behind a large wooden desk. He was a tall man with sharp features and a commanding presence. His eyes flicked over me, assessing, as I took a seat across from him. "Mrs. Bennett," he began, folding his hands on the desk, "thank you for coming on such short notice." "Just tell me what this is about," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Mr. Colton nodded. "Your husband has filed for divorce." The words hit me like a punch to the gut, but I kept my composure. I had expected this, even if I wasn't ready to accept it. I see, I replied. And you're his lawyer? Actually, Mr. Colton said, a slight smile playing on his lips, I'm your lawyer. I blinked, confused. What do you mean? Daniel may have initiated the divorce, but he also made a rather foolish mistake. He forgot that the prenup you both signed before your marriage automatically assigned me as your legal representation in case of any marital disputes. He didn't read the fine print. A spark of satisfaction flared in my chest. Daniel's arrogance had always been his downfall. He never thought anything through completely. But still, I didn't understand. What does this mean for me? Mr. Colton leaned back in his chair, his gaze piercing. It means, Mrs. Bennet, that we have the upper hand. Daniel and your friend Emily thought they could blindside you, but I've already done some digging. There's more to this situation than you know. He slid a folder across the desk toward me. My hands shook slightly as I opened it, revealing pages of documents, photos, and emails. As I flipped through them, my heart pounded harder. There were transactions, large sums of money being moved from Daniel's personal accounts to offshore accounts. There were emails between him and Emily, discussing not just their affair, but plans to manipulate me, to take everything, my house, my savings, even my shares in our joint business. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just an affair. This was a calculated betrayal, a plot to ruin me. But why? Daniel has been siphoning money for months, Mr. Colton explained. He and Emily planned to make it look like you were the one mishandling funds, setting you up to take the fall. But now that we have this evidence, we can turn the tables. I looked up at him, stunned. But how did you get all of this? Mr. Colton's smile widened. Let's just say I have my ways. And more importantly, Daniel and Emily have been careless. They underestimated you, Mrs. Bennet. They thought you'd crumble, that you'd let them walk all over you. But now, it's time for you to take control. The power shift was palpable. For the first time since I discovered the affair, I felt like I had the upper hand. But there was still a question burning in my mind. Why would they do this? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. What did I ever do to deserve this? Mr. Colton hesitated, then handed me another document. It was a letter, written in Daniel's handwriting. As I read it, my breath caught in my throat. It wasn't just about greed or infidelity. It was something much deeper, a secret that Daniel had kept hidden from me, something that connected him and Emily in ways I never imagined. And now, with the truth in my hands, I knew exactly how to fight back. Armed with the truth, I walked back into the house that night with a renewed sense of purpose. I was no longer the betrayed wife, the victim. I was in control, and it was time to confront the people who had tried to destroy me. Daniel and Emily were waiting for me in the living room, their faces a mix of guilt and apprehension. They must have sensed that something had changed in me because they didn't say a word as I stood before them, holding the documents Mr. Colton had given me. I know everything, I said, my voice cold and steady. Daniel's eyes widened. What do you mean? I tossed the folder onto the coffee table. Your secret accounts. Your plan to frame me. The way you and Emily plotted against me. Did you really think you could get away with it? Emily gasped, her face paling. Claire, we didn't. Don't lie to me, I snapped, cutting her off. I have all the proof. I know what you've been doing, and I know why. Daniel tried to step forward, but I held up a hand to stop him. You lied to me, Daniel. You lied to my face for months. And for what? For some twisted scheme to ruin my life? His shoulders slumped, the fight draining out of him. Claire, I can explain. No, I interrupted. I don't want to hear your excuses. I want the truth. Why did you do this? For a long moment, the room was silent. Then Daniel spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. I was desperate, Claire. I was in debt, more than you ever knew. Emily. She offered to help me, to get me out of it. But it spiraled out of control. We never meant for it to go this far. I looked at him, feeling a strange mix of pity and disgust. So, You were willing to sacrifice our marriage, our life together, just to cover up your mistakes? And you, Emily. Was it all about the money? Or was there something else? Emily's eyes filled with tears. I thought I loved him. But I realize now, it was never love. It was just a way out of my own mess. I never wanted to hurt you, Claire. I stared at the two of them, feeling a strange sense of detachment. They had betrayed me, hurt me more deeply than I ever thought possible. But now, seeing them both so broken, so desperate, I felt something shift inside me. I could destroy you both, I said quietly. I have everything I need to ruin you. But I won't. They looked up at me in shock. I'm not going to stoop to your level. You'll both get what you deserve in court. And after that, I never want to see either of you again. I turned to leave, but paused at the door. One more thing, I added, my voice firm. I will rebuild my life, with or without you. And I'll do it on my terms. You both tried to break me, but all you've done is make me stronger. With that, I walked out of the house, feeling lighter than I had in months. The weight of betrayal had lifted, replaced by a sense of empowerment. I had faced the worst, and now I was ready to reclaim my life. In the end, justice prevailed. The court ruled in my favor, and Daniel and Emily were left to deal with the consequences of their actions. As for me, I moved on. I found peace, and eventually, happiness again. I had lost everything, but I had gained something far more valuable, my strength. And that was something no one could ever take away from me. If you like this story, please subscribe, like, click the bell, and leave a comment. Thank you in advance.